Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands we're joining from today.
I'm joining from Lisarow on the lands of the Darkinjung people.
And I am joining from the lands of the Nyungbul people of the Bundjalung Nation. We pay our respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. We acknowledge their deep and ongoing connection to land, waters, language and culture, and recognise that sovereignty was never ceded. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Hi and welcome to Femmebot. Today we are absolutely thrilled to welcome Kate Kirwin, the brilliant founder behind SheCodes. I hear of this lovely lady most days, I'd say, in the tech space. It's a movement empowering women across Australia to learn technical skills, get job ready and transform their lives through technology. With programs that reach both city and regional communities, Kate's work isn't just about code, it's about confidence, community, and closing the gender gap in tech. Welcome, Kate. I hope that was an ample intro for you.
That was lovely. So good to be here.
We want to start from, I guess, just we know what SheCodes is, but not everyone will know. And I only really recently learnt what SheCodes was all about through Microsoft. So, Kate, can you give us a little, I guess, insight into what SheCodes is and what it does?
Yeah. So I've been doing this for just over 10 years now, which is like absolutely bonkers to think about. And it really started from I was trying to teach myself how to code and found that the communities that existed weren't very beginner friendly, weren't very female friendly. So I was just trying to solve my own problem 10 years ago. And now here we are still doing this a whole decade later. But what we do is we run a one-day workshop a couple of times a year. So we just had one really recently, about 100 people in the room, just getting people their first taste of tech. And for a lot of people, the barrier for tech is fear. They're just scared. They're like, this is really hard, or I won't be good at it, or I need to be like a nerd in a hoodie in a basement to be able to survive and thrive in tech. And I just don't think I can do it. And so the point of the one-day workshop is just trying to get a win as quickly as possible, try to break down some of that fear and introduce them to a whole heap of people that are like them that are also thriving in tech. So we've got amazing mentors. At the last event, we had 26 mentors to about 60 participants. So they got amazing one-on-one kind of support, or one-on-two support, I guess, to kind of troubleshoot any of those issues and get their first website or game or whatever it is up and running. And then our longer program is a 6-month boot camp that we run outside of business hours for professional women, getting from I know very little about code to I'm a junior software developer over the course of 6 months, part-time, outside of business hours. And the really cool thing about our program is that we're almost fully funded by industry. So companies, tech companies, mining companies, banks are funding placements in that program. So people from various disadvantaged backgrounds can come and learn to code for free or for very low cost so that we can kind of close that gender gap a little bit quicker and get people the skills, the confidence and the networks they actually need to transition into tech careers. But like that lovely introduction, creating the environment is what's the most important thing for me. So it's great that we are able to practically teach tech skills, but it's the confidence and the networks and the community that really is the heart of what we do. And probably where I spend 70% of my time is how do we make that environment, that experience feel really good so that people can lose all of that fear that they might have had for their whole lives about what tech actually is.
Do you have a moment where you went, this has to exist? This company has to exist for women in tech?
The very early days of my tech journey, when I was trying to teach myself, there was moments where I'm like, this is really frustrating because I don't know what question I need to Google. I don't know who I should ask. So that's kind of where it stemmed from in the early days, is that. And then it was actually a guy in the community who I collaborated on with the first event. His name is Marcus. And he was like, we need to do something like this, Kate, but I don't know how to run an event. And I don't have the skills that you have. So let's collaborate on this first one together. And then even I've seen him recently, he moved overseas and then he moved back. But he's like, I had no idea that this was going to go like where it's gone. And you've taken it to this whole different level than I had ever imagined it being. This was just supposed to be a one-off event just to tell people that tech exists, basically. And this is 10 years later and we've done all of this kind of stuff. So yeah, it's definitely been much more organic. I'd love to say that there's a plan And there's a little bit of a plan, but there's a lot of seeing what the community needs and kind of adapting as we go.
Okay, so I hear about SheCodes quite regularly in the tech community and how it's actually changed a lot of women's lives significantly. So why do you think something like SheCodes matters, and why did you have to create that space for women to have those feelings of change?
Yeah, so the barriers from the research that we've done, there's a whole heap. There's an absolute whole heap. So for women, there is a lack of practical learning opportunities. And honestly, for anyone who's over the age of like 30, there's been a lack of practical coding opportunities.
Yeah, 100%.
Even now, when I talk to people, they're like, oh, you must be doing this for kids. And I'm like, that's really important. For sure, that's really important. But we seem to be missing this entire like rest of the job market who sees the technological change is coming. We're talking about AI every single day, and we're just like, oh, these people are just going to work it out. Where are they going to work it out? So there's a lack of the practical learning opportunities. There's also this really pervasive stereotype that exists. And some of the things that my girls have been told is they're not smart enough, they're not good enough at maths. One of my alumni was told that she was too fun to be in science, and I still like, I don't know what that means. How could you be too fun?
That is horrible.
I know. And she is fun. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
So they were like, you should do business because you're really fun, you're really chatty, you're really good with people. So she did business, and then it was her meeting me and other people that were like me. They were like, wait. Kate's fun. She wears pink. She likes glitter. Maybe I can do this. So there's a lot of kind of rewiring that I think we're doing of having the tangible role models that you can look and see and talk to, then providing a space where people can feel like them. And one of the absolutely still breaks my heart every time I think about it. One of my alumni in the last class, we did like our final stand up of our 6-month program where we all kind of chat about the highlight of the program. And she said, there's never been a time in my life where I felt like I fit in. And yeah, it may never happen for me again, and it probably won't happen for me again, but at least I got to feel it once, and I got to feel it here. And I was like, I know. Breaks my heart. She's a neurodiverse girl and has always just been different, and that never worked for her in school and other employment. But
how
in this
amazing!
space,
how amazing that you're opening up a whole new space for not. Obviously, neurotypical women can do this too, but I feel like, yeah, it's a really exciting space for neurodivergent women who perhaps aren't even diagnosed because they have been high masking their whole lives, but secretly wondering why they weren't into certain things. But tell us about why you created the space, because I feel like we jumped past that, and your story, Kate.
Yeah.
What were you doing in high school and university, and then why did you... I mean, I'm assuming you found tech in an interesting way. So talk to us about your journey.
Yeah. So much like a lot of those people I just spoke about, maths and science wasn't really my thing. I'm very much into creative endeavors. So I love baking.
Seem
I
fun.
Love sewing. I'm fun. Baking, sewing, craft, anything that I can kind of create something I love. And my first love was actually politics. So when I went to university, I studied international relations and business law. It's very random, but anyway, That's what I studied.
Amazing.
And I kind of, I still think that there's a lot of opportunity for creating change in politics, but it wasn't going to happen fast enough for me. It wasn't the change that I could make quickly enough. And so business kind of gave me that avenue of how do I impact and make change in community more quickly. Then I started working for a charity. So I was working in multiple sclerosis, working for them, doing fundraising and events before I started at Space Cubed. So Space Cubed is a community and a co-working space for entrepreneurs, innovators and change makers. Cool people doing cool stuff, basically. And it was there that I first got an idea of what tech was. So I hadn't really touched it at all. There's still all of these people, most of the workforce has had absolutely no exposure to this unless they went to some kind of specialist school or now I went to a private girls' school, so
I was going to ask that question.
Opportunities.
I was going to ask that question, but do you think that's about, because obviously there's two ways to look at it. It's like funding in schools for resources, but also all girls' school. Like it definitely wasn't prioritized. We had computing, but it wasn't whereas home ec was way more prioritized. But that's also because of the time that I was in school. So I think, but yeah, interesting that you also went to an all-girls school. Kat, you went to a co-ed school.
I went to a co-ed public selective school, and that was a funding thing, right? Because we had one computer for the whole school, which you could all book into go and use.
Wow.
So it was, I'm old, but yeah, still, it was pretty wild. But I had the pleasure of my parents investing in a Commodore 64. You were basically coding at that age.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, a lot of the women that I work with, their first experience of code was like customizing their MySpace page, or like things that are completely unrelated to school or the curriculum. And they didn't even think that that was coding. And then when we talk about HTML and CSS, they're like, oh, wait, I did this on MySpace. I didn't have MySpace. I missed that too. And then started working at a co-working space and just got really curious about what people in the community were doing. So people building websites and games and businesses, and just got really curious. And I went along to all of the events. Partly because that was my job. I was the events manager, so I wanted to understand what my customers were doing when they were running events. But also just because I got really curious. And for me, tech was kind of like my baking and sewing a craft, because you need to put the right ingredients in the right order, and then you get something really custom and unique. So it kind of felt like following a recipe. And that was kind of the start of it. It wasn't anything really profound. It wasn't anything that I kind of necessarily sought out. And I think it would have one of those like sliding doors, I guess, moments. Like, I could have not ended up at Space Cubed and not been here right now, because I may never have touched tech if I went to a different business or went down the route of politics. It wasn't a burning need from the start of my life. But realized this massive problem. And then as I meet more women, their stories are very similar to mine. They had that curiosity but didn't think that they could do it, or wanted to find female spaces that they can explore things, because there's not a lot of female-only spaces to kind of be curious, especially around things in technology or STEM. And then we're here.
Yeah, and I mean, how important do you think it is? Because I always think about this, for it to be balanced in terms of males and females in STEM.
Yeah, so the data actually shows that diverse teams they're safer, they're more productive, they're more creative and innovative, because if you've got the same kind of people who have the same life experiences, all trying to solve a problem the same way, you're just not going to get creative, different solutions. And one of the examples that I like to use, it's changed a lot now, but the early days of like fitness tracking devices, it was always very, very obvious to me if a development team had like spoken to some women or had some women part of it. When you're looking through the little list of activities that you can do, and it's all like running and rowing and basketball and golf, and you're like, well, what about dance? What about yoga? What about Pilates? Like, all of these things are valid forms of exercise, but got missed in the first kind of couple of iterations, because it just wasn't a sport that probably the people sitting around the room did. So in that way, like, I mean, I personally didn't buy a lot of those kinds of fitness devices because they didn't work for me. They weren't pretty. They didn't fit my lifestyle, and they didn't fit the kind of activities that I did. And so those companies are then missing out on 51% of the population if they're building products that don't meet end users. So there's a financial risk in not having diverse teams, as well as the safety and productivity and innovation. So there's a whole heap of like really tangible business reasons why we need diversity in tech. And I feel like as we go into more of a AI powered age, we're also coming across these really interesting challenges where a lot of the data sets that have been put into these AI models have been created by a very specific demographic of people. And the data that gets put in matches the data that gets put out. And we also see this a lot in medical stuff. I'm sure some of our listeners would have heard some of the crazy statistics about the things that get misdiagnosed because we've only looked at a data set of, or we've only tested drugs on men rather than on women. Like,
so the
bonkers
bias
to me.
in the data is just totally going to impact. Obviously, if the end user is a woman, it's of no real significance. That's so true. I mean, I wonder how many women now are utilising, Copilot and ChatGPT and these AI resources for perimenopause and menopause. And it's like, what data really is there. Like, because so little research has been put in, and the research that has been done is actually really incorrect. So that's actually really super interesting. I wonder what the takeaways. I haven't actually looked into it on ChatGPT, but maybe I will after this podcast and see what information it gives.
Yeah. And even things like the image generation keeps reinforcing stereotypes. Like I've done a few times of looking up, generate me a photo of a software developer or a lab worker or whatever, and it just reinforces the stereotypes that already exist. So that's really worrying as well, especially for our younger people, if they're relying on these kinds of services to show them, more information about the world, and it's just reinforcing these really pervasive, annoying stereotypes that you have to be man in a lab coat to work in a lab, or you have to be a guy in a hoodie in a basement to work in tech.
It's
It's regressive. That's really kind of scary, isn't it? But I guess it just shows that there's way more work to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And through SheCodes, we can get more women doing this work and making those changes. So obviously you're passionate about what you do. What would you say you love the most? And, that story of the neurodiverse girl sounds like there's some incredible highs like that. But yeah, what do you love about it?
It's definitely the impact. So one of my strongest values is making a difference, and that's what fuels me. So at my office at home, I'm not in my home office today, but my office at home, I have a whole heap of photos up on my wall next to me. And they are moments that I felt like I did a really good job, or I felt really powerful, or I have some kind of positive memory that I can associate with some of those moments on my wall. And that's what I look to when things get hard. And it's literally right there. So I can keep looking at it and be like, that Kate did it. This Kate can do it too. But yeah, seeing the stories of the women that I've been able to support. So one of my girls was able to double her salary. She left a partner that wasn't the right fit for her and was able to buy a house. All of this wouldn't have been possible in the career pathway that she was in. I've had another one of my girls who was able to work remotely, traveling the world, and work from a beach in Thailand, go visit her daughter in Canada, work from wherever, and she was from regional Queensland. And so those doors just wouldn't normally be open to you in those kinds of locations. So seeing that is amazing. And that's what I love. That's what I love doing, is seeing some of those impacts. And the cutest thing ever, so this event that I ran recently, at the end of the day, it's just a one-day workshop. One of these girls came up to me at the end of the day and she gave me a card that she'd passed around the group, and like 12 people had written in this card saying, like, this was such an inspiring day, you've made a real impact on my life, and I'm really inspired about the opportunities that are available to me, and I'm really glad I came. And I'm like, the level of like, how the hell did you do that? Like, you didn't know any of these people. You just went up to random people and said, you want to write in a card for Kate? Like, blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind. But it's things like that, moments that I can then take a step back and be like, oh, yeah, we really did make an impact on those people today. Even if I feel like all I did was give them a pep talk and order some food. But for them, it's so much more than that. It's someone who sees them and gives them the opportunity and gives them the space and lets them create and explore and be curious and feel safe doing that. And that's really priceless.
Well, because it's super practical. It's not just a pep talk, is it? Even the one-day workshop, because I think you're removing some fear, and that is super powerful, because I think especially for me, a lot of the things that I haven't, throughout my career, I've been very confident at certain stages, but the thing that has held me back, I think the most is the tech stuff. Like really, going into one of my first big jobs, I was in publishing, and because I didn't have much experience with just email and computer skills. And that was my biggest, they were like, we're so excited to have you in this role. And I was so fearful about something that actually was a very small part of my job. And had I let that really take hold, I wouldn't have taken that opportunity. And I just think, had I had more experience, just, or had a course like this, it would have just pushed me to do even more.
What would you say to someone like Claire, like that was in that space, that was afraid to take a first step, into exploring? Yeah,
I think
because you'd have a lot of that, wouldn't you? People just really fearful, or they think that it's going to be a whole career overhaul or something like that if they come and see you.
Yeah. I do get a lot of people who tell me that they just lurk. So they watch from a distance for a while and they're like, I have people who talk to me at events and they're like, you don't know me, but I've been following you on LinkedIn for like 2 years. And I'm like, "Oh, okay." They're like, yeah, I really want to come to an event at some point, but I'm just working my way up to that. But I wanted to come say hi. And I'm like, oh, cool, amazing, come say hi. So sometimes the first step doesn't need to be something huge. You don't even need to announce to the world that you're doing anything. You're just lurking. So there's lurking, and then maybe, yeah, say hi to the people who have the jobs that you have or the skills that you want and get a coffee with them and ask them what they love about their job, what the hardest things are, how they've got to where they are, whatever that might be. That might be a one-on-one, super chill, just having a coffee with friends. And then trying to find those spaces that make you feel safe. And if that is taking a friend with you when you're going to an event, or if you're, getting outside your comfort zone, trying to find those little tiny safety blankets that can make you feel a little bit better if you're really scared, bringing a friend along. And then if anyone wants to come to a SheCodes event, I literally tell people at the beginning of the day, like, it is an absolute win for me if you get through the day and you're like, I hate it and I never want to touch it again, because at least you tried it. And you know now that you don't like it, rather than you not sure if you like it, but you're scared of it. At least you know more now than you did before, which is really, really cool. So trying to lower that pressure of, I need to do it, I need to love it, I need to know it, and like go from 0 to 100. Like let's go baby steps of like, I tried something, and that's all your goal is for that day or for that activity is I tried it. And then if that does spark joy, then maybe you can go a little bit further. But particularly in tech, I think people think that if they don't understand all of it in the first 5 minutes, it's not for them. And that's crazy. Like, we wouldn't do that with anything else. We wouldn't expect you to learn French in 2 hours and be completely fluent. But learning the language of technology, we somehow expect that we need to go from 0 to 100 and be fluent in the first 5 minutes. So just trying to lower that pressure for ourselves, which is really hard to do. But I think if you can think about it like those tiny little increments, that makes it a little bit easier to take that first step.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
Yeah. And I mean, with the introduction, we've got to speak about AI, right? So with the introduction of AI, is that kind of pressure that you're talking about, is that feeling more, is it more intimidating at the moment, or is it less intimidating at the moment with AI around, surrounding everything we do, being part of everything?
Yeah. So I think there's two sides of it. So the advent of AI means that we're talking more and more around technology. So we're going to be exposed to it a lot more, which can be really scary, but there's also a lot of opportunity because there's a lot more training resources available. A lot more companies are investing in that kind of uplift. And there's also AI is a really good teacher. So you can ask it, like, explain this concept to me like I'm a 5-year-old, or explain it to me in metaphors using cupcakes, or whatever works for your brain. You've got a custom tutor that can help you do that. So I think that's really exciting that we've got that one-on-one personalized support available to us. But we're also seeing some really crazy stuff happening where people are saying, oh, I don't need to hire anyone anymore. I can just have AI do things for me. And I think we're a bit overhyped at the moment with AI, that it can like replace everything and fix everything and we don't need any people anymore. I don't think that's true. And I think some of the companies that are completely on that bandwagon, it's going to backfire at some point when they then need some human skills and, they're not investing in the development of their people because like you described before, Copilot is supposed to be flying alongside you. It's not supposed to be flying the plane. It's not the pilot. It's the Copilot, because you're still in charge of flying the plane. It's just assisting you to do that. So I think we're a little overhyped at the moment, but in the long term, there will be a lot of opportunity and change that comes with AI if we can harness it well. And that's where I really want everyone, and particularly women, to not feel scared of it. It's not going to take our jobs completely. It's not an impossible barrier to overcome. Just be curious and play, and try and use it to be your helper, your tutor, to try and break down other barriers that might exist for you. I think that's the most powerful thing that we can be doing at the moment.
Can I ask a question just quickly, backing up a bit about the types of women that are coming and doing the 6 month, it was 6 months, wasn't it? So obviously they're women that are quite invested in the industry, and they're coming in to upskill. What types of women in what types of roles, and how do you go about I guess, running a course with women coming in at such different levels?
Yeah. And that's a really great question. And it would probably surprise you the breadth of the people that we have. So in my last cohort, I had someone who was a chef. I had someone who had come out of the police force and was pivoting into a tech career. I had someone who was an accountant, like super broad.
Mm.
And there is definitely no barrier there. The one who was a chef, she's now a software developer. In Brisbane, I had someone who is a wine sommelier who's now a software developer. Like really, really random. You wouldn't think that there's a direct correlation between A and B. Someone who has worked in travel as like a travel agent. Don't know why I couldn't think of that word. Travel agent pivoted to tech. So there's really no bounds to what industry you need to come from to still find opportunity for you in tech. And a mix of ages as well. So like I said, a lot of things seem to focus on kids, and lots of people seem to say to me, oh, I'm 30 and too old to be in tech. But the bulk of my community are from early 30s to like 50s, with the strongest cohort in their 30s and 40s. I think our youngest was maybe 22 in the program. And there's still women in their 30s are like, oh no, I'm too old. I'm like, no, you're actually the perfect age. You're so fine. But we have that little mental narrative of like, oh no, I have to check out because of what I've been told of the stereotype that exists. So that's our kind of core demographic.
That's incredible. It sounds like you've really designed it to be quite intuitive depending on what the needs are of these women. And I love the idea that they come out with a portfolio, because as an employer as well, it's so much more useful because you can literally find the perfect person rather than it be such a risk.
Yeah. So that's the intent. It's not always perfect for sure, but the intent is just to try and rewire again some of those things that for some people, the traditional schooling system doesn't work for them. Exams are terrifying for certain kinds of people, and particularly the neurodiverse people that we spoke about earlier who tend to succeed in tech. Maybe sitting a 3-hour-long exam doesn't work for you. So just providing those other ways that we can prove competency and also set people up for like what the real world is. Because of the real world, you're never going to be put in a room for 3 hours to sit an exam to prove to a client that you're the right person for the job. Like that just wouldn't happen. You would be submitting a portfolio of your work. You would be doing a proposal. You wouldn't be submitting a multiple choice test, although that would be quite amusing, I think, if we had to submit a multiple choice questionnaire to win a job.
Get a client.
Are you tempted at all to go into the education space with for students and younger girls?
Yeah, I think I'm definitely not ruling it out as an option. It's something that we've been exploring a lot more in the last couple of years, is what we can do in the youth space. One of the challenges in the youth space is just the financial model to make it work. So a lot of our work is funded by industry, and for industry, it's a very direct return on investment for them. You fund us, we teach talent, you hire talent. And that little loop can close within 6 months, right? For kids, that's you fund these children, you inspire them, and in like 10 years, you can hire them. That's a lot slower. And the early days of the mission was, how do we create those role models in industry so that the young people who are coming through know that there is something to aspire to, because those women already exist in those leadership positions. But yeah, I think we're now at a tipping point we've done all of this amazing work in the adult space. I think there's opportunity in the youth space if we can get the model right to make it accessible for not just kids from wealthy backgrounds, but the kids in public schools and the kids in the regions who need these opportunities too.
Yeah, well, so awesome.
What does the future of tech, specifically women in tech, look like to you? What gives you hope?
Yeah, so it's really funny when people ask me what's the long-term strategy for my business. And the long-term strategy is that I don't need to exist anymore. The long goal is that we don't have to keep talking about women in tech because there isn't a gap anymore. The research says that we're like 80 years away from that happening, so it probably won't happen in my lifetime, but you never know. We've made a 2% difference. It was 28% of tech was female when I started. We're now at 30% in 10 years. So maybe we can get there in my career lifespan. But that's the goal, is having those both diversity, but the bigger goal is that we don't have to, people aren't scared of taking on those opportunities male or female, they're excited about the opportunity in tech and they're excited about careers in it rather than fearful or unsure or avoiding it because they don't know what it is. So it's that kind of rebranding of what tech is that I'm really, really passionate about. And then I think if we can fix that, we will naturally fix the diversity problem too.
And this is just a question that we ask everyone that comes on the podcast. So how do you use AI in your own life or work right now? And what AI tools have become, part of your day to day?
Yeah, so I'm definitely still really curious and playing with stuff all the time. So I have a bunch of different random trials that I've started and they haven't really worked for me. But I'm mostly at the moment using it for brainstorming. So I've got an idea of something and I haven't quite figured out what I'm doing and asking a bunch of questions at GPT of like, can you suggest to me something along these kinds of lines? And I probably only use about 20% of it and then heavily reword everything because it still does not write anywhere close to the style that I write in. But just for kind of getting ideas on things, I'm finding it really helpful. I did vibe code a script recently, which was fun. I was trying to automate something in my back-end processes and didn't really know what I was doing, but copied and pasted a few things. It broke, but I knew enough to be able to troubleshoot my way to get its broken code into working code and ran it and automated the thing that I wanted to do. So I felt really good about that. A little bit vibe coded, but still managed to automate that. So I think when things slow down, I haven't really had a moment for it to slow down, but I want to use some of the knowledge that I have plus the AI assistant running alongside me to kind of automate some of our very manual processes, because I think everyone would be really shocked at how many things I do manually. When you get an email from me, it's all written by me. When I'm texting reminders, I have an automated text reminder, but then all of the replies are manual. There's a whole heap of things that are really, really manual at the moment. And for someone running a tech business, that makes no sense. So automating things is going to be the future. But
100% you need, if you're trying to remove fear, there needs to be a person there in tech. So you're so right on that front. And you can see why it's so successful, Kate, because you are so warm and definitely unintimidating, which is also very important in tech. And so young to have achieved all this. I'm super impressed by you. And thank you so much for being on this podcast.
Thank you so much.
We're going to meet a lot of women, I think, that have come through your course. And I've already, Sarah Levins we worked with Sarah the other day and she spoke so highly of you and of the course. And so, I think that's why we wanted to meet you and obviously talk to the person who's responsible for upskilling all these women.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on the pod.
Yeah, this was fun.
Thanks. We're still quite new to it, in case you can't tell.
It's all right. It comes.
We're getting there. Somewhere. Yeah. You've got to start somewhere. But we'll take feedback if you want to send it. You can input it to ChatGPT so it's not too harsh and then send it on to us. Thanks,
all
Kate.
Good.
Thank you so much, Kate.
Actually,
no, thank you. And have a good day, the rest of it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks so much. I'll see you soon.
See ya. Bye. I was really excited to speak to Kate because I feel like had that course been around for me, when I was leaving university or going into a job, even though I wasn't in tech, it would have been really useful just to quash, those feelings of fear. And I think it's really incredible that the women we're meeting now, a lot of them have come through SheCodes and it sounds very accessible. It makes it seem really doable.
Yeah, 100%. I think also the thing that was really exciting and something that definitely needs to be addressed and talked about is the diversity in AI and how there isn't any, because most of the information that is being fed into these systems has been written by male teams, and especially what you were saying about the health around women, it's feeding back. AI is feeding back with incorrect answers because the information that's being fed in is incorrect studies and your old studies of things that haven't been kind of addressed yet in, female health space, which is it's definitely something that we need to be talking about because it's quite dangerous who's doing the governance around it.
Yeah, and I guess it's just about, for now, education about where you're getting this information. Like anything, You know, you can't trust all websites. It's why you might be asking ChatGPT, but actually you have to go to a doctor. So it's just not there yet. But yeah. So that's it for this episode of Femmebot, the podcast powering women in tech. If you liked what you heard, hit subscribe and share.